I'm going to take a quick video of where I am, and then I'm going to show it to you. You can watch it back. So give me a second, and I'll be right back.
All right, nice.
All right, I'm back. I will now send you the video.
All right.
I'm uploading it to OneDrive. I'm in the Microsoft ecosystem.
Yeah. Deeply ingrained into the Microsoft ecosystem.
Yeah, I like OneDrive.
It's all right. I got used to using Google Drive, and so like all of my stuff is like on Google Drive.
Yeah.
Plus, I think I got like a free extra subscription or something at some point. That's maybe like I got a student rate or something.
Yeah.
Somehow I got extra storage space. Oh no, I know what it was. I bought a Chromebook at one point, and when you bought a Chromebook, like the first generation of Chromebooks didn't have like any hard drive whatsoever. They had like a tiny like 32 gig solid state drive, and that was it. And so they gave you like a big Google Drive to compensate for it, to like save all your stuff offline. That was like how the first version of Chromebooks worked. And so I have a expanded Google Drive folder, I think, from that purchase.
Yeah, what, permanent? I guess that's fair enough, actually.
Yeah, I think so.
I like how Google can really sell you a lot of like the Pixel phone, which I almost considered buying. In fact, I almost bought it. Comes with like you can upload all of your photos for free in the quality which they were taken. It doesn't compress them at all or anything like that.
Yeah.
We always seem to talk about Amazon on this show. Does Amazon have a version of Drive?
Yeah, they do. I think it's just called Amazon Drive. Honestly, I think that's what it's called. They do have a version of like a Drive software.
Yeah, I thought they would.
It's not nearly as well known as all of the other ones, because the thing about Amazon, or I guess the important caveat about like OneDrive or whatever, is it's like integrated into your PC, and like whatever, like iCloud and whatever, right? Like they're all integrated into your PC, and so it's a more natural offering because it's embedded into like the actual like operating system that you're using.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the video.
All right, so we're in the office. This is the laptop that I'm recording from, with my mug of coffee, and I'm going to quickly show you around where I am. So we're walking through I'm at work at the moment, I should point out. This is the studio. So currently building it. We're putting down basically a stud wall across the back here. This is a stage made from pallets. And on top of that is some laminate flooring. Still quite a lot to do. You can see we've got boxes of laminate there, some underlay. Bit of a rattle. It's quite windy outside, we're going to have to fix that. But we can put cardboard, that should be fine. This is the other side. This we're using a different laminate to make it sort of look softer. This is going to be, like fireplace, sort of Hearthstone sort of vibes, something a bit comfortable and friendly. Nothing to do with Hearthstone per se, but, that sort of by the fireside sort of vibe. The other side's high intensity sort of gaming area where we'll have players doing 1v1, the crowd can sort of watch here, live audience. We'll have TVs to watch from, and the casting booth will be over here. There's a chair. We're putting chairs together today. We've had like 30 Amazon boxes delivered and trussing and all sorts of nonsense. But to stop this from getting too long, I'm going to end it now and head back to the laptop. All right.
Oh, that's really cool. Is it official that like this is your new job? Because you said like you're in the office. Like, is this like a job now?
Yeah, so last time I mentioned I was moving to Manchester.
Yeah.
I don't even think I said Manchester. I just said I'm moving.
No, you didn't. You said some undisclosed location, like TBD or something like that.
Okay, we went to Manchester, which is pretty big UK city.
Yeah.
And we've rented this office space, this warehouse, as you can see, and we're erecting a stage. Like we've got all the designs done. We're going to build this stage, and we're going to basically do full-time streaming, 25 hours a day. Go to eso-community.net, and there is a news post on there.
Emoji contest voting.
Yeah, that's the one. No, just below it.
I see. Escape TV launch event.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. That's the thing that you sent me earlier this week, right?
Yeah.
He said, by the way, if you can make it to the UK like in 12 days, like just do it. And I said,
yeah.
Great, thanks for the invite, but I don't know that I'll be able to make a quick trip to the UK in 12 days.
Yeah, I was just sending it to everyone.
That's super cool.
So I think I presented it to you as a sort of, we're going to go up there and we're going to make YouTube videos and stream on Twitch. And it's all very sort of self-employed and making money. But basically, I actually have the job is I've legally signed paperwork. This is salaried. This is, very safe.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like, that's the dream right there. I mean, especially for me, like 5 or 6 years ago when I was like in college and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and all of that jazz, like it would have been that's like the dream.
Yeah,
that's like
it's so
absolutely
cool.
the dream.
I could call myself a full-time commentator, presenter, something like that.
That's awesome.
Which is cool because it's like what I've been doing on YouTube for a while. And, if someone said, oh, what's your dream job? That's probably in the top of the list somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool.
Also in that news post, it says that there will be an Age of Empires 3 LAN event this year.
Yeah.
We're going to put that on. So for the launch event, which is on the 18th, I sent you an invite. I'm really offended that you couldn't make it with 12 days notice. That's unacceptable.
Unbelievable. Like end of podcast, like YouTube post like Zuta breakup video or something like that.
This is the final podcast. Yeah, you and I will never record again. Unreconcilable.
We only made it to 3 episodes.
I think this is the 5th episode.
Is it really?
It might be. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right.
At one point, it was like a yearly podcast, but now it's several.
Now it's almost like a quarterly podcast or something like that.
It is. I'm actually joined by Zero Empires. Right.
Hello.
I think I could hear him like slightly in the background.
Basically, the launch event is on the 18th. We're going to be hosting about 50 people from all over Europe, mostly Age of Empires 2 sort of names, people that, big streamers or YouTubers, but also just people in the community as well that want to come and meet all the people.
Right.
And we're going to be putting on have a launch stream event. So on the 18th for a few hours, we'll be streaming the party and talking about what we're up to and all sorts of things. We've still got to plan that. But then on the 19th and 20th, we'll also be doing a LAN event, an Age of Empires 2 1v1 event. But it's going to be sort of some wacky rules. We're going to make the players sort of play chess at the same time as playing Age of Empires and a few other crazy things.
Okay.
Just so it should be a lot of fun, even if you don't like watch Age of Empires 2 or watch it regularly.
Yeah.
I still think it'll be worth tuning in.
Yeah.
And then from there on, it's going to be 5 days a week, 5 hours a day, with an hour before and after the stream to sort of plan and set up and that kind of thing.
Right.
Eventually, hopefully, we can do 7 days a week, but we'll probably need more staff. But really, it's just going to be full-time streaming everything Age of Empires and some other extra things as well. Whatever we feel like doing. If we want to stream some other games, that might happen. If we want to do some real-life stuff, real-life streams, that might happen. But Age of Empires is obviously our sort of focus.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, this is cool.
Sorry, I'm just reading through the thread that you linked at the same time. You made a comment about like AoE 3 LAN event or something like that, and someone said, bad luck for Garja, can't blame lag anymore.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
Scroll down, he replied to it. He's such a good...
I saw that.
Yeah, God.
It's pretty funny.
I know. If you go actually speak, we mentioned the emoji contest as well. There's a Garja emote. ESOC G.
Oh, ESOC G. And it's his like AoE avatar. Yeah.
There's also ESOC Bible. You know how we always joked about the Aztec guide?
Yeah.
ESOC Bible. And an ESOC cow hacks emote too.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. They are quite good, actually. We're now partnered on Twitch, actually, with ESOC.
Yeah, that's awesome. Seems like there's been some very positive developments in the Age of Empires community in the last couple months.
Yeah, we're going places. I think it's all kicked off right. Like, Age of Empires was mostly sort of... I think we had a very slightly growing user base in terms of Age of Empires 3 player base, but also on ESOC. But then Age of Empires 4 is announced, and we did a podcast on that and definitive editions as well. And I think just since then, people have been really excited, and everything's just been moving forward, and more and more sort of more content everywhere you look. We're getting partnered. SmackDown is back as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you watch any?
I haven't watched any of it. I think I saw a news post or a forum post or something. I haven't watched. Is it available on YouTube?
Yeah, there's 2 SmackDowns currently.
Did you do the like wacky rule settings? I think I saw one of them and you're going to start in the Colonial Age. Is that true?
Yeah, we did that one.
Okay.
We started in the Colonial Age. It was actually really fun because we had Azamcon versus Kaiser Klein. And I think the expectation was that Kaiser would probably win, but Ace came up with some very clever ideas among, building spies, because you don't, you're already in the colonial age. You can make a spy, and his opponent's playing Ottoman, so you just run your spy up to their explorer, and now they can't make any trading posts. And it was brilliant. It was so funny.
So from my perspective, I think that rule set caters itself to A's more, because like he knows all of the obscure age 2 cards that you can send to like simulate what you would do in age 1 or whatever, right? I mean, there's so many age 2 cards that I'm sure never get considered because they're rubbish if you compare them to even age 1 cards, like sending them like as your second or third card. But like if it's the first card you send, maybe it's like actually really good.
Yeah, it seems like what the players tend to do is they ship 700 wood as their first card.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because you just don't have an economy, and it's a lot of wood.
Yeah.
You can get your infrastructure down. But as a result of this, like the best civilizations seem to be like Germany, because you get 2 Ulans as soon as your first shipment arrives.
That makes sense.
All of the best strategies seem to have this theme of getting military units out quite quickly.
Yeah, I can believe that.
But it was a really interesting format, and I'd really like to do it again, but slightly differently. What I'd prefer to do is start with maybe 12 villages, because you don't have the time to create them, and it feels a bit off curve because you're used to having a few more villages when you get to the colonial age. I'm not sure, but maybe just start with 6, because just embrace the format. It is the way it is. But I'm open to like adding a few extra just to compensate. But also what I'd like to do is, instead of starting in the colonial age, we'd make the age up cost nothing. So you still get to have that 400 wood bonus, or you can still age up with whatever wonder you want, and Portuguese still get their town center for aging up, because they all miss out on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to it. Like I think for some civs it's more advantageous to not have that bonus, and for others it obviously is, right? I mean, any civ that has a 400 wood age up is almost certainly going to argue that they should get 400 wood, and you should be stuck with your, I don't know, tower and 200 gold or whatever. Although the tower and 200 gold could be okay too.
You just miss out on the politician bonus, which is a shame for a lot of civs. It makes a lot of civs just can't compete very easily.
I can imagine Japan would be absolutely rubbish in that scenario.
Yeah, so like hopefully we can fix some of these issues by making the age up free, and basically. Right, I'm going to send you a link to my Discord, and the reason I'm doing this is because in my Discord, which I've now got my own personal Discord, I know. I feel like everyone and their mum and their dog has a Discord, so why not me as well?
Does it cost money to have a Discord?
No, it's free.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Discord's awesome. But basically, in that server, there is somewhere called Vote on SmackDowns here.
Okay.
And I would like you to have a look at the 4 different SmackDown formats that are being shown, and tell me what you think. Because some of them have got good ratings, some of them have got bad ratings. But before Zuter tells us about this, I just want to point out to anyone that used to watch SmackDown or is watching SmackDown now, we will do normal supremacy a lot. Don't worry. These wacky, weird formats, I'm hoping to do 1 in every 3 SmackDowns will be sort of a wacky, weird format, or maybe every other SmackDown, but certainly not every SmackDown. There'll be a lot of variety as well as just traditional supremacy. In fact, the next SmackDown will be normal supremacy, except with a slight quick search twist. We're going to simulate quick search, and the players are going to message me their civilization, and they have to commit to it. So a blind pick as if you were going into a quick search, and then we'll spawn in on a random map, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
But that's going to be regular supremacy, the next one. But the SmackDown after that will be one of the formats we're about to discuss.
All right.
I'm assuming everyone listening has joined my Discord and has had a look, but Zuter is now going to tell us his thoughts.
All right, so the first one says settlers train instantly, Ottoman are banned.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, that would be... Ottoman would just have like 99 villagers. I guess it would be a factor of how quickly could you build houses to...
Yeah, I was thinking like maybe Ottoman shouldn't be banned just for the fun of it. I wonder, they'd clearly be very good because free settlers. But how would you make military? Because your settlers would just keep spawning and they'd never stop.
You know, it might actually be kind of a fun thought exercise to see what happens, because if they truly trained instantly, would you get limited by the church upgrades or not?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to make more than 25 villages, would you? Unless you upgraded the limit. But maybe that's a good thing, because you don't want to have a million villages taking up all your pop slots. Well, you probably do, but you do need military.
So what I was going to say is it would be kind of funny, because up until you got to 100 population cap, like by chopping wood or shipping wood or whatever, you just have this constant flow of villagers, and you wouldn't be able to make any military units. Like you just outright wouldn't be able to make military units until you had 100 villagers. And it could make an interesting dynamic for civs that could train both military and villagers, and they would have to like try and kill the Ottoman villagers or kill their, I don't know, like say you pike rushed their TC or something, or pike rushed their houses and like started sieging all their houses. It'd be a battle of like, can I get up enough houses to actually make use of the 100 villagers that I have?
Yeah, you've got to get past that 100 population threshold before you can actually train any unit that isn't a settler.
Yeah. I think you could just like pike rush and just constantly have 10 pikes sieging houses, and you would probably eventually win as the non-auto civ by just sieging houses and forcing them to continually chop wood and only build houses.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, but I think ultimately Ottoman will be banned. But as a format, it seems quite... I think it's the second most popular one there to see what would happen if settlers just trained instantly.
Yeah, okay, so that one's pretty cool. All age ups cost nothing, but it still takes the same time to research. Okay, so you can like go straight to the Imperial Age if you want, but...
You wouldn't train any villages, basically, because if you go straight to the Imperial Age, your town center would constantly be in use, and you wouldn't train... You'd have 6 settlers for the whole game.
Would wonders cost nothing as well? Is that what it means?
Yeah, wonders would cost nothing.
I think that's actually kind of interesting. I think the Age 3 civilizations, any politician that has the exiled prince, I think any civ that has exiled prince would be really good. Yeah, you'd get to Age 3 pretty quickly, and you'd probably ship like 1,000 wood as your first card.
Oh, that's true.
Then continue to Age 4 after you'd shipped 1,000 wood, or like just continue the progression and get factories and 1,000 wood. And it seems interesting, but I think civs with the fast age politician and factories would be way too good to match up. So it'd be like your Frances and your Germanys and Dutch maybe would be like the best civs.
I think China would be quite strong as well, because you just get 20 villagers for going to the Imperial Age with one of their wonders.
I guess if you had 8 villagers, could you just build all your wonders with 8 villagers and have constant fast age up? I guess you could, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. And then you could send really strong shipments because you get to the next stage before your European equivalent could. And then you get to benefit from these super powerful sort of Fortress Age and Industrial Age shipments.
And you can make villagers at the same time, which I think is actually hugely underrated.
That's true. That's huge.
You can make more villagers while you're fast aging to every age. I think you're right. I think China would be really good. You do the 400 food upgrade to start with, like the one that everyone does. What's it called? Summer Palace or whatever. The one that like creates troops and gives you 400 wood. 400 food. You'd use the 400 food to start kickstart making more villagers while continuing to age. Age 3, I guess you'd do Porcelain Tower, and then Age 4, maybe you'd do the villager one and get like 16 vills or something like that. It'd be really good.
Yeah. For sure the Asian civs would be the best. But let me give you a brief sort of overview of why that's a format, because it doesn't seem to have a very good rating. It's got 3 thumbs up. One of them's me. And 13 thumbs down. I'm not paying too much attention to the thumbs down because I think the thumbs up is the most important factor, but the thumbs down are sort of a good indicator as well. But
yeah,
what I'm thinking is we did the colonial age start, right? That's fair enough. That's how that works.
Yeah.
But this one, instead of I wanted to have sort of a industrial age start or even an imperial age start, but without any of the technologies.
Okay.
And I thought the best way to do that would be, you could just start in the industrial or imperial age. But I thought, why not just make the age ups cost nothing? So you still get that sort of progression, so to speak, of like shipments, and it feels like you're still starting in the discovery age. But the reason that format is there at all is because I wanted a sort of industrial age start, and I thought that would be the best way to go about it. But people don't seem to think that's a particularly interesting format. So
I think that one's more interesting than the next one. So the one that seemingly has the most upvotes and is the one that everyone wants is all cards give their effect twice, which I think it's kind of boring, honestly. Like it's fine, but like who's to argue that 1,400 wood isn't going to be like ridiculously good?
I think the best ones will be like 5 Cossacks, so you get 10 Cossacks.
Yeah, that's true.
You just all in rush, right? Like that just seems really strong when your cards are twice as strong. Because who cares if you've got 1,400 wood on the floor if there's like 10 Cossacks in your base stopping you from gathering it?
Honestly, Russia would be really good. I think you'd ship like 600 wood as your first card, make like 2 block houses, and then like ship like 10 Cossacks, 8 Cossacks, 1,400 food. Like imagine how many units you could train out of 2 forward block houses with 1,400 food.
Yeah. But there's a couple of others, like if you can research a mercenary shipment, like for 1,000 gold, you'd then actually get twice the number of mercenaries, which is...
That's true. No one wants to deal with like 10 mams coming to your...
Yeah, well, it'd be 8 mams, because SmackDown patch is built off ESOC patch, but that's, you know...
fuck it, just make 30 mams.
You can really abuse, like, mercenary shipments there, which I thought was quite interesting. There's a few other abusable things, like, well, not that it's abusable per se, but 2 heavy cannons is just a really strong shipment anyway. 4 heavy cannons is,
yeah.
As I famously said on one SmackDown, 2 cannons is better than 1.
I think that's just like basic mathematics, right? 2 is greater than 1.
Yeah.
Are there any instances in Age of Empires where having less of something would be more? That got very philosophical.
Yeah, that did very, very quickly, but I wanna answer this question now.
Is there anything where you would prefer to have 1 of something instead of 2?
I was thinking like multipliers, like if you had a negative multiplier that you'd want 1, but still that's just, you want the thing that is greater than the thing that is smaller.
Maybe if you were like in a pop crunch and you had like a really population heavy shipment or something, like for example, some of those mercenary shipments that are like, you get 8 of this and 4 of this and 6 of this and 2 of this, like the whole army shipments.
Yeah.
And they cost like 64 population to send or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you wouldn't want 2 of those.
Yeah, just so it's easier to send in a way.
Yeah, otherwise you'd have to have like 120 pop.
I think I found the answer. The thing you want less of, more than more of, is ping. You would want 1 ping instead of 2 ping. There you go.
Yeah, that's true.
We figured it out.
All right, we solved the riddle. All right, and the last one, which is surprising to me how many upvotes it has, is Honshu Regicide.
I think there's a lot of people that don't play, very often or like watching more than they like playing, who voted for this. Because in reality, who the fuck wants to watch Honshu Regicide?
Nobody does.
I went on about it at length back in the day, but it's...
So I will say, from my experience, I love watching people play on water. When I'm watching a game like on Twitch or whatever, and like there's a big water fight, and like people are shipping frigates, and like there's this all-out bonanza on water, and people are playing on Hispaniola, and there's like walls everywhere, and Kinesi's got 16 layers of walls and 300 fishing ships and monitors nuking you from halfway across the map. It's pretty fun to watch, but I also know that it's incredibly and terribly frustrating to play, and even more frustrating to play against. Well, like your wonders are disappearing because the guy's got a monitor like in a pond that you can't ever hope to reach.
Yeah, that's true.
It's fun to watch. It's really fun to watch, and when I cast, I like to watch it like when I'm casting, but I can't stand playing it. There's fan Zuta and there's player Zuta. And fan Zuta loves water, loves to watch people like have these stupid ship fights under towers with forts being built and crap like that. And player Zuta just wishes we could always play on Great Plains and have a 80 wood treasure in our base. Like that's really what we want.
It's so true. I feel like people enjoy watching water a lot more than they enjoy trying to like play the mind fuck that it is to keep up with everything on the map and that's happening. Yeah, water is not overly enjoyable, especially if your opponent takes water and for some reason you can't. But yes, there's been some of the best casts I think we did were with like Kinesi and
unless you're I was also going to say unless you're Kinesi loves water, and very clearly he knows how to play it very, very well.
Speaking of Kinesi, he's the top rated player on ESOC at the moment.
I saw there was 3 Frenchmen at the top of the ladder.
There were 4 Frenchmen the other day.
Made me a little bit concerned that the Frenchmen were taking over the world. But
yeah. Over the world. It's okay. They surrender pretty quick.
Yeah, that's true.
That's Kaiser Klein's words, not mine, by the way.
Kaiser Chiefs.
Yeah, Kaiser Chiefs.
Better use his proper name or else no one will know who he is.
Oh, that's right. Kaiser Chiefs is honestly like everything he seems to write on ESOC, I just like seem to agree with him. Like he's such a friendly guy and he's always really helpful. I just wanted to put that in. Kaiser Chiefs is a great guy.
Hopefully nobody ever takes my my butchering of his name as a derogatory term. I think the guy's awesome, honestly.
Yeah, I reckon Kaiser Klein will come. In fact, I think most of the people on that top 10 will come. Will you come to an Age of Empires 3 LAN?
Until I know like the date and the times and like my work schedule and stuff, like it's impossible to. I think it would be really fun. I'd love to do it, but
we're going to give the date away on the launch stream of the Escape TV event.
I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere in Europe as well.
It's going to be here in the UK, so yeah.
Yeah, which isn't like the most convenient place to travel to.
Yeah.
Because I live on the west coast of the United States, and so like if you're in New York or something, like flying to London or whatever is,
you don't have to fly across America first to get
it's
there.
not too bad, but flying from the west coast of the US, first you fly all the way across America, which is 6 hours, and then you fly to Europe, which is another
6 hours.
Another 6 hours, right? Yeah. So it's a really long flight.
It's probably just as quick to go the other way, fly across Asia.
Yeah, it's probably about the same. I think actually the route they take you is basically like up over the North Pole when you fly from.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the world is round after all. We don't have to like use the Mercator projection to.
Wait, really? The world's round? But of course it's round.
Yeah.
But I've seen a surprising number of.
You're not a flat earther, are you?
No, I'm not. Of course not. I'm not retarded. It's fine. But I have seen it. Like YouTube seems to recommend like this amazing number of flat Earth videos to me, and I'm like, where do these people come from? Who are these people? Like the world is clearly round. I know it's flat in Age of Empires, but.
Well, here's the real question. Do you click on them or do you watch them? Because if you click on them or you watch them, they're going to keep sending you flat Earth type videos.
That's true. I keep clicking on the ones that debunk flat Earth videos because anyway, where was I going with this? Yes, the date will be available on the 18th of January, basically. We'll announce it then.
All right.
My thoughts are there'll be at least 4, probably 6 months notice. So if we give you 6 months notice, do you think you can come?
Possibly. It still depends on like what the date is. Like if it's over the 4th of July, like that's an easier time to wrangle to get time off.
Yeah.
You know, just because there's an American holiday and I can swing a long weekend into the 4th of July easier than I can if it's some random weekend.
So the 4th of July is a Thursday this year.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could. The event would almost certainly be on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Who knows when it will be? I'll let you know. I'm pretty sure most of the Europeans will come because it's really cheap to fly from anywhere in Europe to anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, if it were in the US, or maybe you do like a twice yearly like get together or something. If there's something in the US, I would certainly come.
It'd be so cool to have you though.
Yeah.
You'd be very welcome to do some casting with me and whoever. Who else could come? I think Ryan was interested in coming as a player, so maybe we'll get him.
No, it'd be really fun.
I don't know. There's a lot of people that said they might come. Has there ever been anything like an AoE 3 LAN?
Yeah, WCG back in 2007 and 2008.
And that was the last one?
Yeah, the last one that I'm aware of. It was in, I think, Cologne.
Yeah.
It was in Germany somewhere.
Oh, right. And it was a while ago, though.
Yeah, it was in 2008. It was 11 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. And this game's still going.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, Ryan was like in his first year of college when he won WCG. I remember he had to get like... I think some like exceptions for his classes or whatever so that he could go and travel.
Yeah, that's cool. It's so long ago. And to think that like a studio like this is sort of popping up now in 2019.
Yeah, it's pretty well. It shows the staying power of the game, honestly. It shows that there's a very dedicated user base that wants to continue to see it be successful.
Yeah, I think Age of Empires 4, Microsoft did the right thing there. And I'm wishing them all the success that Age of Empires deserves.
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about careers last time, and I said to you, like, this came at the perfect point in my life. All I had to lose was a bar job. I haven't got any real commitments. You know, I'm not married. I don't have a job where if I left it, I'd be leaving an industry that I want to be in. You know, I'm not losing anything.
Yeah.
I was thinking a bit about your path because you finished college and then a lot of your time was spent, you know, making the Age of Empires 3 Sanctuary fan patch. And then you got a job doing Age of Empires Online. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you sort of went there with your career. I feel like obviously you deserved every bit of it. And I'm really pleased that you've gotten to where you are. But in a way, it's quite lucky that you just sort of got offered this job from your persistence of, you know, trying to get your patch implemented as the official patch. And they're just like, look, okay.
No, absolutely. Like 100%. Like I owe at least the start of my career success to having the year that I spent at Microsoft on my resume. Like that is hands down, like that is what differentiated my resume, like when I was applying for jobs and stuff, from all other resumes. Because you know, when recruiters are searching through stacks of resumes and CVs, it's hard to to find some like a defining characteristic, right? Like you all have a bachelor's degree and you all did well in school and you all blah blah blah, right? There's thousands of people like that, but not too many people are going to have a year's worth of semi-relatable industry experience working at a like big name tech company on their resume when they're applying for like their first job.
Yeah, your first job. I was going to say, especially at your age when you were.
Yeah.
And it's Microsoft as well. Like it's a tech company with a big name.
Yeah, absolutely. All of my success, like I definitely owe to my starting success at Microsoft, and my starting success at Microsoft came from being overly persistent. The first fan patch would eventually someday be like the official patch that we all played on ESO. And of course that never happened, but my persistence and network that I got built out of the persistence was something that turned out to be invaluable, like from a professional level.
Yeah, but my thoughts are, this all started with Age of Empires for you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, in a way, I'm sort of mirroring that. I've done a lot of sort of YouTube stuff. It's not quite the same since you were balancing a game and on the more techie side of things, I suppose. But I'm now in this position where I'm working for a company doing, something Age of Empires related, like you were, and I wonder where it will go.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a very real way to get relevant experience for an industry that you want to work in. And so if what you're interested in is, linguistics and speaking and communications type roles, like this is like a great gateway to doing that at like a larger company. Like it's definitely a way to make a name for yourself and get like relevant experience working in an industry that you enjoy.
Yeah, but I just wondered, like, for me, I was working in the bar and I just thought, when I've got to be awesome if I got some sort of lucky break like you did.
Yeah,
and then it happened. So
yeah, definitely. That's so cool.
I agree with you 100%, but my real hope is that this company becomes the bigger company that you were mentioning. That
right.
We become something that employs lots of people, and we move into Age of Empires 4 and all this good stuff. And the company really grows into something very big and something that's great. But you're absolutely right. If not anything else, it's industry experience. And
yeah, for sure.
I just think it's amazing that this has happened. But yeah, we're now in Manchester. I've now got the house and with everyone. We've told people we're building a studio, but I don't really think anyone knows what that means.
Yeah.
People have like ideas of a studio in their mind, but we're going to have a stage and there's going to be LEDs on it and lots of lighting, a giant truss, big TVs and gaming PCs and all this sort of good stuff.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Ding, 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 ding.
I'm done. What do you have to talk about?
I guess we'll have to go back to like my comfort zone of talking about 2008 Civilization tier rankings.
Yeah, that's something you're... Yeah. Why it's such a redundant thing to talk about, like the balance on Age Sanctuary fan patch.
No, I'm talking pre-fan patch. I'm talking like robot patch 1.1, like the one that was so this will be, I think, a somewhat educational endeavor, especially for newcomers to the Age of Empires 3 scene. I think a lot of people like to view Japan as this super overpowered civilization that can't be beat, especially at the like sub PR 25 level, right? Like we've all had the frustration of letting Japan boom undisturbed for 8 minutes and sending 600 wood and 4 villagers way too many times and having 1 million shrines on every single one of our second hunts and 30 billion Ashigara musketeers bursting out of
3 barracks. Because they've got that tech that makes them train in batches of 10. Yeah,
I think we've all had that experience, but I'd like to make it known, especially to those of you who started playing in 2010 or later, that it used to be even worse. Like Japan used to be way better than they are now. I don't remember the specifics, but I believe Ashigara musketeers were slightly stronger. I think they had more ranged attack than they do now, if you can believe that.
Wow.
The shrine gather rate was almost double what it is now. The civilization was so ridiculously overpowered that I think they were played in WCG, what we were alluding to earlier in the podcast. I think they were played in all but 2 or 3 games of WCG. There's actually this very memorable game to me in WCG. One of the only losses that H2O had actually in the 2008 WCG. There's this very like formative, memorable game that I have. And so back in this day, remember, there was no real live broadcast available. it was like back in the day where Twitch wasn't a thing. Like Twitch TV was not even an idea at that point, right? And so
Twitch launched in 2011. Can you believe it?
Yeah. And so what we would do is you're waiting for the recorded game, right? Like the only way you have of viewing those games is like waiting for the recorded games to be posted. And there was this very memorable game to me where a Japanese player named Airlity, Airlity, played Russia against Ryan's or H2O's Japan and won by like doing like the Nubius strat that we're all used to, right? Forward blockhouses, making only strelets, right-clicking town centers, and right-clicking villagers. Like that's all he did, and it was such a memorable game to me because everyone was trying to beat H2O's Japan by mirroring it, and he had spent a lot of time offline prepping optimal build orders and preparing for the event for many months prior to the actual event, and his downfall turned out to be the same downfall that every PR17 has ever had in their life, and it seemed like the greatest validation of all times for people such as myself that yes, truly losing to Russia, right-clicking your base, only making one unit is a valid way to lose the game in Age of Empires.
Yeah. Makes you feel better.
It definitely makes you feel better. And the funny thing is, outside of the Japanese civilization, I don't even remember what else was considered good at the time because Japan was so much better than everything else that was available that it wasn't even close. Like there was no competition. I think at least in the fan patches that we've seen, like there's at least some civilization diversity. And I think if you were to host a no rules type tournament where every civilization you could play it as many times in a row as you wanted, there was no restrictions as to civilizations, it was on a set map pool, I think you would see some civ diversity. Don't you agree? Like there would probably be at least 4 or 5 civilizations that would see representation.
Yeah, I think so. Also, because balance isn't too bad actually. I think on the most the recent ESOC patches, but also people just like playing the civilizations that they're comfortable with. And some of those civilizations are good enough, like that they would just play them because being comfortable with your civ is often more important than how strong it is in this abstract sort of tier list sort of way. But I think you're right. Although if we did host we will when we do host the AoE 3 LAN, I imagine we'll adopt rules similar to the ESOC tournament rules, just because that's how tournaments have been played for the past 4 years. So it seems natural to continue that trend. And everyone's familiar with that. Yeah. And it seems like that's how tournaments have been balanced. And who are we to change it? Although we're still sort of deciding what patch it should be played on. I think ESOC patch is a strong contender because, as I just said, that's how tournaments have been played for 4 years. But I'm wondering if there's room to spice it up with SmackDown patch. Just the base SmackDown patch, no funky rules.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we can get players to, have those new colonial age politicians and maybe a couple of other tweaks just to improve the viewing experience. Because, ultimately as a company, as Escape TV, that's what we're trying to optimize, isn't it? The viewing experience. We want something that's fun to watch and memorable and is good for all those reasons. And I think SmackDown patch was a good attempt to do that. But in terms of balance, I'm definitely going to talk to the players. We're definitely going to, maybe create a Discord or liaise with them, a forum, say like, hey, what patch do we do this on? And what do you expect? What would you like from this sort of event?
Yeah. One thing that I will say, and this is, mind you, this is someone who has worked on fan patches, observed fan patches, played on regular patches, seen the development cycle, the boom and bust cycle of all of the normal robot entertainment type patches. One thing that I would encourage you to think about when you're making that decision is the broader audience viewership. And I think sometimes like the ESO patch or the fan patch, when I led the fan patch, I think there was this kind of opinion among lower rated players, especially, that the fan patches were a little bit elitist and not as user friendly to broad audiences.
Yeah.
And so especially as you're starting, like a new gaming endeavor, and you're trying to cast as wide of a net as you can to reach new and old players alike, make sure that you choose something that's at least somewhat conscientious to not coming off as too pigeonholed into the experience you're trying to provide. Like ultimately you want to make all of the people who are watching have a relatable experience, because I think having that consistent relatable experience is probably the biggest thing to drive growth of the channel and to drive adoption of the game in general, right? Because if someone watches a bunch of high-rated players play on a patch that they can't ever get a game on, and adapt strategies that they see or learn or something like that from watching those games, they're going to be disincentivized to continue watching, because they'll say, oh, like this is on a patch that I never play on, I can't ever learn anything from it. And so it has the potential to lead to negative consequences as well.
Okay, so your recommendation is sort of represent the game that it is and not the patch that we've developed and the game that, the top players are playing. We want the actual sort of... The only trouble with that, and I sort of agree with what you're saying, the issue is if we were to play on the RE patch, which I think is, what you're getting at in its purest form, that comes with an other bunch of issues where, Ottoman and Iroquois are these two ridiculous civilizations.
I absolutely agree, which is why I tried to craft my language to be somewhat flexible, because I know I'll get raked over the coals by people like Kaiser Chiefs and Lord Raphael and
Diroga.
Like, oh, like you don't know how bad Iroquois is. And then, I know how bad Iroquois is. Like, I know how bad Ottoman is. I know what the robot patch entails and how it devolves into two civilizations basically being mirrored back and forth between each other. But at the same time, it's difficult to balance the player experience and the viewer experience and the casual player experience as well. Like, it's something that when you think about like the health of the game long term, stems from or grows from the casual player base, right? And your casual players grow into devoted players, and your devoted players turn into hardcore players, and your hardcore players help like reach the new generations of the audience, right? Like the top players from my time period are not playing anymore. But the experience that people have, right? If you ask older players or the new top players now, like who they grew up watching or what they grew up watching in terms of replays or Twitch streams or whatever, right? They might tell you like an old player like Nature Phoenix or something like that, right? Who was a well-established, good, great player who is nowhere to be seen and is completely disengaged from the community. But because that player was something that they could look up to and use strategies from, really help develop their experience as a player. And so I think sometimes when you get really good at the game, or you get to the top tier of play where balance is something that's super critical and very important, you start to lose sight of what got you to the place that you're at.
Yeah. Okay. We'll have to think about the patch. It's just I really want to see, a good colonial age option for each. Like, it just seems so dumb to me that these different politicians, that half of them are just unusable. I think this brings us to an interesting conversation because, with Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, there is an opportunity there to adopt a new patch or a new balance, or perhaps take ideas from some of the previous patches. And I hope that is what Microsoft do. I mean, you've said in the past they won't, or it's unlikely that they'll just take a patch, the game balance from but they could at least there's always things that worked in each of these different patches or that people like. Perhaps there can be like a fresh slate. We'll take RE patch, but like patch all the really egregious things we don't like. I'm hoping Microsoft can go down that route and take some ideas from, even SmackDown.
Yeah.
That, basically, the reason I would want to use SmackDown patch for a tournament is just to prove look at all this game variety. Look how sort of fun it is. These changes are clearly good, and I need to prove that they are, so that Microsoft can look at it and go, yeah, okay, we like those changes, we'll put these ones in.
So from my experience with that, the current robot patch is actually heavily based off of the first fan patch. So fan patch 1.0, not even the fan patch that I worked on, which was fan patch 1.2. Fan patch 1.0 actually, Iroquois was the hands down best civilization in that patch as well. And that patch was developed during the time when Ensemble Studios was dissolved and Robot Entertainment was created. And when they made the Robot patch, right? Robot used to not be the company that patched Age of Empires 3, although it's largely based off of the old company and there's some old history between the two companies or whatever. It was largely based off of the FanPatch 1.0 changes. And I remember when they were soliciting advice for how to make those changes, one of the things they said was to the group that made that patch, like, give us 5 things that you think really differentiates this patch, and we will try and implement them into the game. And so they took the 5 things, which at the time when Japan was so overpowered was, hey, like, cut the shrine bonus in half and reduce Ashgar Musketeer damage, right? And it led to a very different game. And so one of the things that I think is important and I think will help at least provide some new life is you don't need to have a perfectly balanced version of the game. And I think everybody knows that, right? I don't think anyone will ever argue that either of the fan patches or any of the fan patch endeavors has ever led to a perfectly balanced game.
Yeah.
But what it has led to is a new game, right? Something new for players to explore, new tactics to try out, different strategies to plays, new variations of old strategies and that kind of thing. And I think just having the sense of something new to play is something that people can be engaged with. And so what might happen is Microsoft, while they're releasing this definitive edition, says, okay, like, give us 5 things that think makes your patch great, and we'll consider implementing them. And I think it's tough, right? For a patch team that's implemented 1,600 changes or whatever it is, it's really hard to go back and identify 5 that you think will make the game materially better in terms of balance. But I think if nothing else, it leads to something that's new, and it might be a worthwhile endeavor.
What I take away from what you just said, the idea of something new and creating like that experience where you can explore, and I've gone through this, but I've said similar things before, but I think I absolutely agree with you there. But you can make a change where you think, oh, okay, Dragoons are too strong, let's reduce their ranged resistance by 0.1, which is what happened in ESOC patch. That kind of change isn't particularly interesting in the sense that you can explore. It doesn't like give you new build orders or a new way to play or something different to try. It's just a strict, like you do all the same things as before, but now Dragoons are slightly worse and maybe they should be, and that's the way things are now. A change, for example, that gives you the ability to explore would be new politicians, where you might open up in niche situations something that's actually, better than what you could have done before. Say you're playing against Kanisi, he does his super water frustrating build, and you could instead age up with villagers and cows because the naturalist is different.
Yeah.
But also another change I like the idea of is, maybe nerfing the exiled prince a little bit so that you can explore aging up with some of the other age ups that are there, which is something I'd like to do in SmackDown patch. And one final idea I'll give, since you said keep it to about 5, I'll keep it to about 3, is maybe, increase the power of the colonial age, because people seem to have this, fortress age meta is seems to be the thing at the moment.
Yeah.
But what if crossbowmen and pikemen cost 50 food and 30 wood? So you sort of just change that a little bit, and obviously food is a less valuable resource. We all know that. So you're basically decreasing the cost of the crossbow pikeman by about 8%. But what you're also doing is allowing players to make more crossbowmen pikemen out of a 700 wood shipment. So you can sort of get more bang for your buck in those early sort of stages, if you see what I mean. I'm not sure did I say all of this in a previous podcast?
Maybe something in a similar vein, but I think it's worth reiterating.
Yeah.
I think ultimately that's the right approach. Quite frankly, if you look at the fan patch that I worked on, it was a patch that had changes that were honestly geared towards making H2 fighting far more user-friendly. I think we gave Cav a slightly higher ranged resistance and tweaked around the hit points of some of the cav units while giving them more resistance so that they died more naturally to their hard counters, but they stood up against ranged units a little bit more. Ultimately, what it led to was a lot of civilizations who could play semi-eco-friendly Age 2 Musk Husk builds really, really strong, is ultimately what it led to. And that's certainly different than what the current meta is, right? Where everyone goes to Age 3, builds a bunch of TPs, and makes Skirm Goon with maybe a 2 Felk shipment or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually haven't watched the game, so I don't know whether or not that's the actual current meta, but I suspect based on my previous history with the patch that it's something similar to that.
At the moment, it looks like Colonial Age and Fortress Age are sort of play as roughly similar in power level, but that might be because India is played a lot and India stays colonial and stuff. Yeah. I think it's slightly skewed to Fortress, but yeah, your point is pretty much spot on.
So it's it's certainly hard. But we've been through this exercise before. Microsoft, for whatever laundry list of legal reasons, isn't going to outright accept a patch, but something they have been receptive to in the past is give us your 5 best ideas and we'll think about it. And ultimately, circling back to the point that I made, when I was encouraging you which patch to choose for whatever event you end up hosting, having official patch support is a incredibly powerful thing because it unites your user base on a single patch.
Yeah.
And it's something that is so powerful that if you can make even a few changes to switch up the gameplay a little bit in the official patch, it's worth uniting the player base with a slightly degraded top player experience if it's better or good enough or new enough that it drives engagement in the game. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Honestly, one of the most exciting things about Definitive Edition for me is that we're going to get rid of this idea where you can play on vanilla, on War Chiefs, or on the Asian dynasties. Like, I would straight up accept vanilla, the game as it is in the vanilla, if it meant everyone could play on that same game and that we didn't have this community division.
Yeah.
Well, actually, maybe not vanilla, because that literally cuts out 6 of the civilizations and quite a lot of content and loads of cards and stuff like that. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. You want unity within the experience that people are playing with. I actually think that was one of the biggest mistakes that Ensemble Studios made when they were releasing their expansion packs. When they released their expansion packs, the new packs should have given the buyer the opportunity to play the new civilizations, with the non-buyer not the opportunity to play those civilizations.
Yeah.
But the patch should have remained consistent. Everyone should have been playing on the same version of the game with the same civilizations, with the same upgrades. And it should have been more like the DLC concept of today, with like buying new skins or new whatever. It should have tried to emulate that experience. And instead, we have a split experience where 1,000 people play vanilla, 1,000 people play TAD, and 2 people play the War Chiefs, right?
I wonder what they're doing, having 1v1 against each other. Or maybe they're doing a comp stomp, two versus. But yeah, you're right. And I think if they made, let's say Age of Empires 3 was being made and released today, I think that's sort of how they would handle it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, this idea of DLC wasn't quite there yet. Maybe it was expansion packs, wasn't it? But I think part of the reason, and we covered this before, is that you can't just like download the civs. You can't just, because you have to download tons of textures and models and lots of data and things like that over. We didn't used to have broadband, did we? So you didn't used to have this fiber connection. So they had to package them all in discs, and only the people with the discs could use the new content. So it sort of made sense the way they did it. But it does have these sort of long-term consequences for us now that aren't ideal. But Definitive Edition will hopefully fix. But you've given me an idea for my next YouTube video. I'm going to make like top 5s and top 10s, just because that seems to be what gets clicked on. People really like watching or listening to top 5s and top 10s. And I was thinking like top 10 cavalry, top 5 cavalry, top 5 infantry, top 5 this and that and the other, just to like get a few of them out so they can start collecting views over time, and then shift gear into content that's actually more useful. And that kind of thing, because you need to whet people's appetites, especially new subscribers, with this idea of like listening to quite short form, well edited, well done content that's sort of interesting to listen to, which I imagine top 5s will be, and then get more into the nitty gritty, of more interesting stuff that people on ESOC would actually like to listen to. That would be tips and tricks and things like that. But perhaps I should do a top 5 changes made in ESOC patch or something like that. Top 5 changes in SmackDown patch, and just like talk about, you know, why it's in my top 5 and what it did to the game and how it's changed the experience for better. And I think that's probably a good thing to do, especially after what you've just said.
So gave me an idea too. If you ever want me to make content for your YouTube channel, I'm happy to do it free of charge. And one thing that I had an idea of is like you send me a replay, and I record myself watching the replay for the first time, and it can be any replay. It can be like a SmackDown replay. It can be 2 PR3s playing each other. It can be a super high level gameplay. It can be a super old replay. It can be something of nostalgic value. It can be something that has a crazy end. It can be anything that you want. And I won't have seen it before unless it's, I don't know, like a WCG 2008 replay, in which case I probably will have seen it before.
Yep. And
I just record myself watching it and giving like my broad commentary of what's going on, and then I'll send you the recording, and you can like overlay my recording over the replay and like publish it as a YouTube video or something.
Oh, that's a cool idea. I've actually got the community channel where that kind of content is what I'm trying to encourage other people to do. But I think you deserve a spot on the Interjection channel, because I think obviously you've got to.
If you want to, it's up to you.
I would love to. I think that'd be great. I think you've got to, you're very well known in the community. You've got a great voice for it. You're knowledgeable about the game, and you and I have this history, which means it'd be perfect for some sort of interesting Zuter series on the channel. But I think that's a particularly good idea, because what I can do is curate it. I can find you the good games, and I can find all the interesting replays.
Yeah, exactly.
And then all you have to do is like take however long it is out of your day to sit down in front of it. You don't have to do any of the boring, uninteresting, often time-consuming, busy work that is getting the games played and finding the good ones.
At the very least, I can spare 20 or 30 minutes a week to watch a replay and record like a first take of what's going on. It's a little bit more difficult for me to, like you said, like curate the content and stuff like that. I don't have as much time to
We'll do all of that for you. My thoughts are like sending you particularly good SmackDown games.
Yeah, exactly.
Because often you play a SmackDown, you often get like maybe 1, and if you're lucky, 2 or 3 excellent, like long 35-minute games where they start making mills and it's really balanced, and the hunts disappear and it's quite this sort of even fight that ends up being great. But yeah, I can do that. Maybe I'll even go over the old SmackDowns and curate some of the best games from
there you go,
from the old SmackDowns. Because if I pull all of them out and re-upload, just because I reckon a lot of people maybe click on SmackDown and then watched the first 20 minutes of it, and then they'll never go back to see the last hour and 40 of some of those. I think that could be good fun.
Well, and I think some of the other, or at least one of the things that I'm thinking of, sometimes when the casters cast SmackDown, they miss something, or the gameplay is progressing too quickly that you don't have time to like pause the game and dwell on a strategic concept or something like that, right? Like there's more action going on, and you just have to like continue to steamroll ahead at whatever present time happening is going on, right? You don't have time to like pause the game and say, okay, like let's talk about why the player built a mill right now, right? Or why they're not getting a certain upgrade, or some sort of like more in-depth thing, or maybe they delete a half-built building or something, or make us swing in a different change of strategy based on some little thing that they saw scouting or whatever, right? Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to dwell on that.
Yeah.
And so that's something that when I used to do some of my replay analysis at the end of SmackDown, that I really enjoyed doing that kind of analysis and that kind of take on it, because it's something that I think helps develop players. And as I've mentioned a couple times, developing like the next generation of players is something that's really important for the longevity of the game.
I'd love to see more sort of content like that, where you can dwell on the nuance and the complexity of very minor decisions that often get lost in the chaos that is, a game of Age of Empires 3. Because, top level players, they have all these things going through their mind. And I remember, actually, I was playing a 1v1 and I had H2O on the other end of the call on Discord. And he's like telling me what to do. And like, I'm getting basically like his speech per second is way higher than I can actually execute on what he's saying.
Yeah.
And, obviously when you're casting, you have to have this broad perspective and overview, and often the other guys talking. Yeah, you're right. I think that would be a really cool, that's more long form sort of content, but I think you'd be the ideal person to do it. And I'd quite like to make those sort of short form, edited, sort of top 5 sort of, have you heard of Spirit of the Law?
No, I don't think so.
He makes videos that are quite popular, although in the Age of Empires 2 communities as a whole, he's not very well integrated. But
I see.
Basically, I want to do what he does, but do it right. And actually, actually make sure the content I'm producing, top level players agree with what I'm saying. That's sort of
right, exactly.
Rather than publishing a load of nonsense based on assumptions that aren't true.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. We're going to politely ask Dave to edit all references to Age of Empires out of the podcast.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you later, Chief.
See you later. See you later. See you later.